Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books. Let's get started. Okay, so let's unpack this. We've got a really specific mission for today's deep dive. We're looking at the foundational material for a book by Mary Roach, Replaceable You, Adventures in Human Anatomy.
Right. And we're not even looking at the contents yet.
Not at all. We're
Yeah.
sort of reverse engineering the experience.
Yeah.
Just from the title, the subtitle, the author's reputation.
Yeah.
What can we figure out? What's the scope here?
And it's a fascinating way to do it because those framing sources, they do so much of the heavy lifting. The title alone gives you a ton.
It really does.
Yeah, that whole idea of replacement immediately sets this humorous but also deeply scientific tone. Even the cover art, if you've seen
Oh,
it.
the cover. The face that looks like it's built from spare parts.
Exactly. That modular, almost unsettling arrangement of eyes and orifices. It's a visual cue for the whole theme.
Which is?
That the human body isn't some perfect, static temple. It's a system of potentially interchangeable, repairable components.
That's a perfect entry point for the title. Replaceable You. It's brilliant. It's colorful, and like you said, a little unnerving.
Which is probably the point.
Totally. It's also immediately appealing to someone who wants to get smart about a topic fast, without getting bogged down in, dense medical jargon.
Absolutely. So if we focus just on that title for a second, Replaceable You, it sort of implies two things, right? On one hand, it's promising a look at the real science of swapping out human parts. But on the other, there's this subtle philosophical tension.
And the whole, are we still us if the parts are changing thing?
Precisely. And then you add the subtitle, Adventures in Human Anatomy. That just seals the deal. This is not going to be some sterile clinical textbook.
No way. It promises a journey. But why that specific word, adventures? I mean, what does that signal to you?
It signals that we're going to some strange places, maybe slightly gross places.
Okay, probably.
Definitely surprising ones. It's like, she's our guide, and she's taking us off the well-trodden path of just basic biology.
It manages your expectations perfectly then.
It really does. An adventure implies risk, right? Unexpected turns, and I think critically, probably some laughably absurd discoveries along the way.
So if we connect that to the bigger picture, how do you think the book might be structured?
Well, given her history, I'd bet the investigation into what makes us replaceable is broken down into probably three main areas.
Oh, that's interesting. What are they?
First, you've got the historical or purely mechanical stuff, prosthetics, the strange materials they used in early surgery, the evolution of joint replacements, the materials science angle.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second would be the biological side, regenerative replacement, the body's own surprising ability to repair itself, but also the cutting edge of engineering tissue, maybe even xenotransplantation.
So using animal organs?
Could be.
Yeah.
And then finally, you'd have the philosophical and experimental side, the biohacking, the limits of what surgeons are even willing to try.
So it's not just a book about shiny modern tech. It's also the weird, probably hilarious history of how we got here.
Exactly. That idea of being replaceable sounds so impersonal, right? Almost alarming.
It does.
But when you frame it that way, as an adventure through history and science, it becomes incredibly compelling. It's like she's looking at the human body as the ultimate repair manual.
She's signaling she's going to the literal limits of human resilience.
That's it. What happens when a hip wears out? What about when a lens clouds over? And importantly, what were the strange, sometimes dark paths that researchers took to find the solutions we take for granted today?
I agree. The tone is everything. But let's shift to the author herself, because here's where it gets really, really interesting.
Mary Roach. She's the anchor point for this whole experience.
She is. The sources note she's the best-selling author of books like Fuzz and Stiff. Now, for listeners who know her work, that sets clear expectations. But for those who don't, how do those books inform what we should expect from Replaceable You?
This is so crucial for anticipating the book's depth. Mary Roach's entire specialty is taking topics that are inherently dense or maybe morbid or just super niche.
Like cadavers and Stiff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or human-wildlife conflict in Fuzz. She takes these topics and she just transforms them. She's not just reporting from a distance. She gets embedded. She asks the questions everyone else is too polite or maybe just too squeamish to ask.
Right. She doesn't just tell you cadavers are important for science. She goes to the lab where surgeons practice facelifts on the dead.
Or where they're using them to test if a bear trap is humane. She finds the absurdity in the reality and makes it educational.
She really does.
Think about the detail in Stiff. She showed us that the dead are used everywhere, testing seatbelts, practicing on them for military medics. She explores the why and the how with this blend of meticulous research and a total lack of pretense.
So that track record pretty much confirms her adventures in human anatomy will have that same kind of investigative curiosity.
And that signature blend of dry, dark humor.
And that style is what makes the information stick, which is what you want, right?
Yeah.
To learn something quickly but also thoroughly. The humor becomes a mnemonic device.
Totally. You remember the weird anecdote about, say, early artificial hearts? And that story anchors the complex scientific principle you just learned?
So we know we're not getting a fire hose of medical jargon.
Not at all. We're anticipating detailed, factual explorations of human part size, organs, bones, but delivered with the narrative flair of someone who's gone to the weirdest corners of medical science and talked to the oddest experts.
Let me challenge that for a second, though. If it leans so heavily on being absurd and entertaining, how do we know the complex medical details are treated with rigor, that they aren't just, played for laughs?
That's a really important question, and I think the balance comes from how she grounds the humor in factual detail. Her access is incredible. She's reading peer-reviewed sources, she's shadowing top surgeons, she's visiting materials science labs.
So the humor isn't from making things up.
No, the humor comes from the facts themselves being stranger than fiction. Her commentary is always rooted in the real scientific effort being made. She uses the surprising anecdotes to lead you deeper into the research, not away from it.
So the weird story about the history of hip replacements isn't just a funny detour.
It's the vehicle.
It's the vehicle for explaining biomechanical engineering principles.
Precisely. We can anticipate learning about specific materials, the plastics, the ceramics, all the alloys that make modern replacements work, but we'll learn about them because Roach will have found the one eccentric inventor who spent 40 years trying to get a new joint material approved. It's science through storytelling.
So it sets a high bar for entertainment, but it also assures us we're getting serious, synthesized information.
Yeah. The whole structure is implied to be this thematic journey, taking us limb by limb or system by system, exploring what can go wrong and what science has offered as a substitute.
Okay, so let's synthesize this. If we pull everything together, the title, the cover, the author's reputation, what's the final picture?
The picture is incredibly clear. We know Replaceable You is a deep and undoubtedly humorous look at the parts of our body that can be repaired, replaced, or maybe even done without.
It frames the human body as a repairable machine.
A dynamic, repairable mechanism, all set within the very real framework of human anatomy and scientific discovery.
And that completely fulfills our mission for today. We have a pretty profound understanding of the scope and tone of this book before we've even read page 1.
Yeah.
We know this deep dive promises insights into human biology, but in a really entertaining way.
And it avoids that information overload by focusing on the memorable details. But this whole adventure, it's not just about the body. It's about the limits of human ingenuity and resilience, which leads us to that final provocative thought for you to think about.
Let's hear it.
If parts of you are functionally replaceable, if technology can swap out your worn-out bits, or if your body just naturally regenerates, where does the individual, where do you truly reside?
Well, it's irreplaceable.
Exactly. What element of our anatomy is truly unique, truly indispensable? Is it just the brain? Is it our memory? That's the core philosophical tension that's going to anchor all of these scientific adventures.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge. Spread the word.